Welcome to the debut of Impact Portsmouth, presented by Wild Adventurous Life.
You know, I think a few of us set out to change the world. And for me, all I wanted to do is sponsor a girl's education. And everything that happened after that was nothing that I orchestrated or expected. And when I was listening to the introductory remarks, I really believe that we don't set out to find our mission. Our mission finds us. And then if we're listening and we follow, amazing things really do happen. And so that's about what you're going to hear tonight, is that the mission that found me and where it took me, I didn't create it. And so we're going to call that Sophie's story. There came a time when I felt a real desire to give back. And being a teacher, I thought the most appropriate thing is to sponsor a child's education. And with the help of a friend who lived in Western Kenya, a young girl was identified. Now, Sophie, it's typical of the young girls who grew up in Western Kenya, in rural Kenya. Her mother was a nurse. Her father was a dairy science gentleman in the industry. Both her parents died of HIV/AIDS. Sophie then, with her younger brother, went to live with Grandma. Sophie being the youngest, but Grandma, who was in her late 70s, had at that time 3 other grandchildren from her other son's family who had died of AIDS. So there were 5 little ones in the house with an aging lady, and Sophie, being probably 11 at that hour, or at that age, was taken out of school to care for the little ones, her brother and her younger cousins. Sophie was the child that was recommended that I sponsor. Now, when I sponsored, Sophie was then placed in a very well-structured and highly academic boarding school, which is protocol in Kenya for youngsters who want a good education. They go to a boarding school. And as Sophie grew she was getting close to graduation, I felt such an impulse for wanting to do more. By that time, I was retired, and I thought I have to figure out a way to do more. So I started buying lottery tickets. And every Saturday, I bought 2. And of course, nothing falls from the sky. And I picked up on that after about 1.5 years. And I realized that my message is that if I wanted anything to happen, I really had to. The solution was me. I had to come up with a solution. And the only collateral I had was my reputation as a teacher. So I thought, all right, I'll draw on that collateral. And I wrote up Sophie's story. She was just about to graduate. And I sent it out to 100 people. Students, people who I'd known, networked with, who I'd worked with, friends, acquaintances, people I knew in the community. From that outreach, the next year, 8 sponsors stepped forward. So now we have 8 children who were being sponsored now in high school. The year after that, we had 15. And the year after that, we had 23. Time to put in place some structure and organization. I gathered a core of like-minded people and friends, and we formed a 501c3, a nonprofit charity. Put in place some project manager in Kenya, and started treating it like a business, started treating it like, with the integrity and the oversight that the service really deserved. So about that time, we said, golly, where are all the girls? We're getting wonderful applicants for our 10 scholarships a year. It's not a lot, but it's something. Where are all the girls? Why don't more girls apply? And then we learned this, that in rural Kenya, 40% of the girls in rural Kenya do not finish grade 8. We learned that the girls' scores were low, and they weren't qualifying for our scholarship cutoff point because girls were missing a week of school every month because they didn't have sanitary supplies. We learned that in this region, over 200 girls in every single school zone drop out of school every year due to pregnancy, early marriage, or poor performance from frequent absence. So that came to a board of directors made up primarily of women, and that sat hard. And we thought, we have to do something about this. What shall we do? And so the rest of the story for the girls program comes out of that question. We established a partnership with 6 primary schools in the district, and they became our partner schools. We launched a 3-prong girls empowerment program: education, material supplies, hygiene, and sanitation. And I'll take each one of those. So in the beginning, our approach began with girls' clubs. We formed girls' clubs in each of the 6 partner schools. We found a volunteer teacher in each of the schools who would be the teacher mentor. And once a week, girls in grades 4 through 8 gathered together with their teacher mentor to have a platform to discuss issues of common concern in a place that was supportive and trusting, where they could be trusted. And during these after-school meetings, we focused primarily on boosting girls' life skills. Rural girls from traditional families are very reluctant to talk about adolescent issues, puberty, sexual relations, how to keep themselves safe. All of that is taboo. And so the girls learn it through talking with older girls and, unfortunately, through hearsay from the boys who are ever so eager to help the girls understand that premarital sex is really going to help them to make sure they'll have children when they finally get married. So, yeah. So, education was an important part, and we delivered that through the girls' clubs. We developed a girl-child manual for these teacher patrons so that they would have discussion points that would guide them through discussions during these weekly meetings. Curriculum topics were really aimed to improve girls' health awareness, build self-confidence, and really improve their decision-making skills. Now, to ensure that girls would be able to stay in school during their menses, we established a partnership with a group of local women, and we commissioned them to make reusable sanitary towels. We had never heard of it, but they had done quite a bit of research for their own daughters and for their own immediate families, and we put them to work. And so these ladies working on treadle sewing machines would produce 5 reusable pads for each girl's dignity kit. That was our solution. We distributed dignity kits to our adolescent girls. And the dignity kit consisted of 2 pairs of underwear. Girls don't have underwear. 2 pairs of underwear, a set of 5 reusable sanitary towels, and we taught the girls how to keep those washed and cleaned and sanitized, and then some emergency pads as well. Twice a year, we would make sure that the adolescent girls in those schools received dignity kits along with their weekly education meetings with their teacher patrons. And what we found coming out of those 6 schools in relationship to the other schools that didn't receive these services was astounding, and we realized that we were obviously onto something. As funding allowed, we expanded to the next group of 6 schools. So within 4 years, we had all 23 schools, all 23 primary schools in our zone were our partner schools. The parents were ecstatic. Almost half the population in Kendu Bay, this is Western Kenya, live on $2 a day or less, if per family. They are peasant farmers who grow their own food, or fishermen. It has the highest AIDS prevalence in all of Kenya, 25%, compared to the national average of 6%. A lot of education needs to go on in that region. It has the second highest rate of adolescent pregnancy in Kenya. 33% of adolescents bear children before the age of 20. So parents were so grateful. We used the Dignity Kit distributions as a community education event where parents, community leaders, school officials, government officials all would gather. We would have speakers. It was used as to raise awareness on girl-child issues and to really petition the community and the government officials to get behind girls' education. They call them girl-child education, and and the farmers and those who could not afford to give their daughters sanitary supplies, they would wring the hands with gratitude of our project leaders, saying, you know, it has been so hard for me because my daughter would hide at home when she was having her period, and we knew she was missing school. So it helped everybody. And we have a lot of community and government support in that regard. While Girls Club became the vehicle for education and raising health standards, health understanding among the girls, what we realized is that a social aspect was required. Girls really needed social interaction to build self-esteem and to build their social skills. So we created debates with neighboring schools. And each week there are debates going on between neighboring schools of the girls' clubs. The topics are established in advance. The good part about the debates we discovered was that debates require advanced preparation and research and planning. And these are skills that they are not getting in their normal classroom. However, as the debates continued, teachers were saying, those skills we're seeing the girls bringing those skills right back into the classroom. And the headmasters were saying, we have never seen our girls be so comfortable standing and addressing a group of people, expressing their opinions, advocating for their sisters. So it has been a great support for the whole of the school community. In 2009, 125 adolescent girls received our first distribution of Dignity kits. This year, over 2,000 girls will receive Dignity kits, supplies, so they too can stay in school and build their skills. Now, so what came out of all of this? Oh, I forgot another aspect. That's why it took us so long, it took us 4 years. At each of the schools, we also partnered with the school community, which means leaders of the parents group, to construct gender-sensitive latrines, girls' latrines. Broken doors and shared facilities were really hampered girls' attendance during their periods. They were so afraid of being humiliated, they'd stay home. So it was really important to construct a gender-sensitive latrine for the girls so that they had the confidence of privacy and their personal privacy was secure. So those three things, the education, the material supplies, and the hygiene, sanitation, was a setup at each of those 23 schools. And I'll get back to that question. So what came out of all of this? Well, girls' school dropout that had been over 200 girls was dropped to 4. Pregnancy at one school alone when we first started were 14 girls. In 23 schools for the past 2 years, 0. We boosted, the program boosted girls' high school eligibility from 43%, 100%. All of our girls are now qualifying for high school. Now, that's, in Girls Club, there are 3,400 girls who are participating in our girls clubs. So after a few years, you get these girls, they've become used to being leaders and organizers, setting up the meetings, telling girls to sit down and be quiet, choosing the topics, being the debaters. Well, it really pays off after a few years. And not only that, the girls' class performance has improved dramatically. For the first time ever in this school zone, the majority of top performing students are girls. Girls now hold position number 1 in 75% of all classes 1 through 8. Isn't that awesome? Yeah. So that was our girls program. Then those capable girls now are folding back into applying for the scholarships. So as we continue to link sponsors with deserving students, we have, as of this year, more than 200 Kendu Bay youngsters have received high school education through our sponsorship program. And because we make sure the students are placed in highly competitive, very good schools. There are tens of thousands of high schools in Kenya. The good schools are the boarding schools. Those are the schools that if your youngster can attend one of those boarding schools, they're going to get a whack at a government scholarship for college. 90% of our kids qualify for government scholarship to university and get university degrees as a scholarship. So that it's a double return for a sponsor who supports a youngster's high school education, and then to see that youngster dig in and put in the hours and the work and reap the benefit of the degree. And finally, 3 years ago, we became aware that the government of Kenya supports schools in general in Kenya. Per capita, $1.35 per student per year for textbooks. Okay, so go into a rural school. The kiddos are barefoot. They sit on benches. There's no back. There are rough-hewn boards for desks and hardly any books. So what we did is we thought, all right, we'll have a book drive. Good old book drive. We put out a blurb in February or March. Whatever money we raised for the book drive, we disperse among our 23 schools. Often it's $100 to $200 per school. That amount, focused where the school identifies its greatest need, has made such a difference. Scores have risen in just those 3 years between 23 and 50% at those 23 schools in just that little bit of time. So a little bit can go a long way. Now, for all of you, and you're all half my age, life began for me after retirement. You see, that all of this happened well after I had retired. And so if you're listening and you're responding to a desire, and then you make a decision and you throw yourself upon you bring good to the world is going to bring good to you. And I'm really convinced that the triggers are infinite for us all of what creates this wild, adventurous life. What triggers us to make a new move. But I am convinced that when we throw our weight to a good cause, that and we join it with love, the universe is going to come. You're joining the universe. It's going to come right back at you. Yeah, just put on your seatbelt and enjoy the ride.